Miqqi was all set to come today, everything ironed and laid out, and then yesterday I got some sort of stomach bug. And as the majority, looking over the audience of you know, it's a lot more effort for a woman to get out of the house than a man. So I decided, and especially now that I've seen the line at the ladies' room, I decided, and I'm glad I decided, that discretion was the better part of valor. Okay, I'd like to thank Barbara for inviting me for this wonderful opportunity. And I'm just going to say a few words and then introduce our speakers. Our bigender system is rooted in our culture like an ancient oak. And the roots go from very, very strong branches near the surface to strong tendrils that spread out for yards and yards, as well as going down many, many feet. And these tendrils grip the soil and keep the tree, in this case a giant maple, in place. Right? And it grips the soil of our nature and being. The roots keep the tree stable and protected through storms and calamities, but sometimes through a concatenation of circumstances, the entire system is weakened and even falls down. Now, I don't know if you can see that on my street in Riverdale, there are, by the school, Withrow School, there are some huge, enormous old maple trees. And this one, in a storm, you'll recall some of the storms we had this summer, fell over. And this tree has to be 100, 110 years old. So it doesn't happen all at once, though, that's the thing. For the tree in this photo to fall down, a series of events had to take place. This tree fell over during a wicked rain and windstorm in mid-July. But that was not alone the cause. This tree, the first contributing factor was age. The tree had been there for many years, and as a result, its insides were worn out by insects. So when the tree fell over, we could see that it had been slowly but surely weakened over generations. More importantly, the previous week, on July 8th, Southern Ontario experienced record-breaking rains. Those rains, I theorize, and I'm not an arborist, soaked the soil so thoroughly and so deeply that the roots were no longer locked onto hard-packed earth, but rather were swimming in mud. You'll remember that storm, I'm sure. That's the famous one where the Ferrari got drowned. This confluence of events together, along with no doubt many other causes and events, ended in the death of an old tree that had weakened slowly and inevitably over time. I suggest that the bigender system is like that old tree, and that it is now beginning to weaken and lose its grip. I saw this very clearly last June in Philadelphia. I attended the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference and was stunned by the huge number of young people who were electing to choose their gender rather than follow the prescribed route. There were 3,500 people at that conference, and the majority were under 40. Many were there with their parents. It was just stunning. I went to a session on choosing a university for gender diverse children, and it was SRO. And many of those kids were there with their parents who wanted to know, how can we be sure that our child, our gender brilliant child, will be welcomed? So I left that, and I felt that's it. That's it. The revolution's around the corner. By the time I get back to Toronto, bigender will be dead. We are looking at a time where children are asserting their need to be themselves. And most importantly, parents are supporting them. Organizations like EGAL and PFLAG offer support and connect parents to each other. In the states, advocacy groups like NTAC, the National Transgender Advocacy Coalition, and TLDEF, the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, have provided legal assistance and support. This latter organization was responsible for the Coy-Mathis decision in Colorado. This was where young Coy received permission to use the girls' bathrooms. I quote Michael Silverman, the director of TLDF. In June 2013, the Colorado Civil Rights Division ruled in favor of 6-year-old Coy Mathis, whose school had barred her from using the girls' bathroom at her elementary school because she is transgender. It was the first ruling in the nation holding that transgender students must be allowed to use bathrooms that match who they are, and the most comprehensive ruling supporting the rights of transgender people to access bathrooms without harassment or discrimination. The Toronto Star, in referring to the case of a 16-year-old trans boy, stated in an editorial, and I quote, In this day and age, Ontario schools shouldn't work themselves into a lather because transgender or gender non-conforming students or staff expect to be treated with respect, fairness, and inclusiveness. What I want to draw your attention to is the phrase, in this day and age, which is a remarkable statement suggesting that, at least in our culture, this should be the norm. As this is happening, and it is, we need to prepare ourselves. We need to pave the road these children, girls and boys, young men and women will travel on. This meeting here today is designed to discuss the issues these gender adventurers will face and what systems we need in order to aid their exploration. I'm going to introduce our panelists now. In order going down the table, we have Alex Duffy, who works on youth engagement and safer schools at YAL, and is very familiar with this topic. Next to Alex is Dr. Chelsea Derry. Chelsea currently runs a general practice and also has a clinical interest in the health issues specific to the LGBTQ plus community. Next to Chelsea is Dana Broadfoot. Dana, would you raise your hand? I've been so ordered.
Present.
Okay. Don't laugh, there's going to be a quiz on this later. It was during her present employment that she came to the realization she could no longer keep running and came out as a transsexual. Her family helped her, and her mother says that Dana makes a lot better daughter than she did a son. Next to Dana is Nicole Nussbaum. Among other things, Nishama Nicole Nussbaum is a lawyer with experience in areas of employment and union rights. And she now works on the Legal Aid with Legal Aid Ontario. Rupert is a 61-year-old Eurasian pansexual trans man. So every time we think we get something organized, like, okay, we can't just say man or woman, now we've got to say trans man. Someone comes in and confuses us. A mental health counselor. Mr. Raj is working as a clinician, as a psychotherapist at the Sherborne Health Center since 2002. And Yuli Rivera was born in the German Democratic Republic, is an African European gender fluid activist, a filmmaker and photographer, and is our last panelist in the lobby. Okay? I'm going to ask each of the panelists to take a few minutes to make a statement. We'll go down the line this way, if that's all right with everyone. And do it from your seat. Please use your microphone, and then I will be back up here to moderate questions. Thank you.